Hello, friends. How are you today? I am back once again to read from Dark World Lightwork, and we are reading from chapters 45, 46, and 47, and those are called Leaving Las Vegas, Fugue, oops, Leaving Las Vegas, Pillar of Salt, and Fugue State. So let's get it going. We set out for Huntington Beach before the first morning light. The hotter it got, the worse my car would perform. I didn't want to get stuck out in the middle of the desert in the middle of the day with no phone. I was unbelievably nervous. Because I had no navigation, I printed out directions at the library, just like I used to in the early 2000s. There was a time when no one had a smartphone. People still went on road trips. I was one of them. Most of us survived. I figured if I made it this far, I could get to the beach without incident. We got as far as state line before the car started to choke. It was scorching out there. The waves of heat radiated from the pavement, making the entire highway look like a Salvador Dali fever dream. We made it to the showers. That alone was a dream come true. We got an entire room with a chair for Clem to sit in. I'd rescued some lavender sugar scrub from the dumpster. I used it to scrub nearly 5 months of dirt off my legs. I washed and conditioned my hair 3 times. I also took the time to wash Clem. She usually tried to run from the water, but she was happy with the rinse. Due to the hot weather, she dried off almost immediately. I wanted to stay in that little room all day. Every time we were inside, I wanted to stay. I also felt the urge to keep going. It was irritating. By the time we left the showers, it was too late in the afternoon to make the rest of the drive to California. I knew that if I wanted to get to Huntington, we would have to wait until the next morning. I was too nervous to drive in the dark with no phone. We made our way across the street to a nearly abandoned outlet mall. Due to lockdowns, most of the shops were closed. I thanked God that the well air conditioned building was still open and mostly empty. I sat in a massage chair and rifled around in my bag until I found some dollars to put in. I kept expecting to see mall security or even maintenance milling about, but I was relieved to find the place clear of distractions. I bought my lunch from the car. Clem and I were able to sit at a table, an actual table in the food court. There was one taco shop and a juice bar that looked like they were open. However, I didn't see any employees standing at the registers. I was grateful for the time to decompress. It was a chance for me to shed my old skin and prepare for the new chapter. We spent most of the day in a giant mall, generally unnoticed in solitude. The scene was apocalyptic, but the mood was peaceful. I was grateful that the chaos of the pandemic didn't reach my atmosphere in any significant way. If anything, I was finding a considerable amount of peace in the aftermath of yet another end of the world as I knew it situation. All right, and the next chapter is called Pillar of Salt. I left everything behind, and then I went back, like a moth to the flame. I made my way back to the hell that was my former life. Moths are innocently looking for the moon. They're biologically drawn to the light in general. So was I. I realized that the only reason I longed for home was my grandmother. She wasn't there anymore. It was time to let go. I considered myself lucky and blessed. I dodged a bullet getting out of town when I did. When I was in Hebrew school, we read the Old Testament. To my young mind, the morals of the stories were clear, and the tales came to life as we read them. The one that caught my attention the most was the fable of Lot's wife. In this vignette, God has condemned the city and set it to destruction. Lot and his family are given a reprieve with a caveat. They are warned not to look back or the consequences would be fatal. As they are fleeing, Lot's wife can't resist turning around to get one last glance of her beloved hometown. When she does, she immediately turns into a pillar of salt. For some reason, this was the most dynamic metaphor of the entire Bible to me. Even at a very young age, the message was pure and simple. Don't look back, particularly if it's to a situation you escaped by the skin of your teeth. If you avoid disaster, take the grace and keep it pushing. Of course, all of this is easier said than done, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. All right, and the last chapter is Fugue State. All right. About a week after the mammogram, I got a call from a doctor at a primary care office. He informed me that there was a nodule found in the right breast. He said that it was likely non-cancerous, and his professional advice was to monitor it. He suggested I return for another mammogram in 6 months to make sure that the mass didn't grow in size. I felt in my heart that what was going on with my nipple wasn't just cosmetic. Whatever this nodule was, it was causing major damage to the surrounding tissue. As a patient, it fell upon me to act as my own advocate, but I just didn't have the energy to take issue. I went to an actual licensed physician for a clinical diagnosis and honestly didn't get much more clarity than if I just guessed on my own. At least I tried. During the follow-up, the doctor asked me if I had any other concerns. I mentioned a lipoma on my neck. Over the course of time on the streets, the condition of my neck worsened. By the time the pain in my neck and shoulder were nearly debilitating. The doctor made an appointment for me to have it removed. I was shocked that it could be so easy. I hoped for more answers on my breast, but I was grateful to have an out date for the mass at least. In 2013, I paid $500 to a doctor I found online. He removed a lemon-sized lipoma from just below the base of the skull. The placement of the tumor was superficial and caused no discomfort. From that point until 2019, when I was made homeless, I noticed that the area was stiff. However, a barely noticeable mass remained. After living in the car for several months, the area began to ache, swell, and cause extreme pain. Up to that point, neither the lipoma nor the area caused me any discomfort whatsoever. After the first surgery, I didn't even require painkillers. My neck was now aching constantly. As a result, I felt pain in my ear during cold or windy weather. It felt like an ice pick was being shoved into my eardrum. My arms went numb when I was sleeping, and I would often spend most days without feeling it, at least 3 fingers on each hand. I attributed the discomfort largely to poor eating habits and sleeping positions in the car. Lipomas are fatty tissues. It was correct for me to assume that the overconsumption of fat and overprocessed oils would promote tumor growth. I assumed the surgery would be outpatient like the first time, but I wondered how I would recover in my car. My biggest concern was a possible infection. The night before the initial consultation, Clem and I slept in the hospital parking lot. It was loud, and there was the security van driving around with flashing amber lights all night, but we were on site for the next morning. As usual, I was anxious about the logistics of bringing Clementine into a medical facility, but I was willing to pass her off as a service animal if need be. By this time, we were inseparable. The thought of going inside while she sat in the car did not sit right with me. I refused to leave the little dog in the car. In life, it's important to have priorities and stick to them. All right, so that was 45, 46, and 47, Leaving Las Vegas, Pillar of Salt and Fugue State, and we will be moving on to 48 through 50, and those are The Simulation Theory, The Never-Ending Red Eye, and A Slight Upgrade. I will see you next time. Love you.